All right, welcome everybody. We're gonna go off on different, a different track today. We'll get into some of the business stories, and yes, Jay Powell is gonna speak today, and what is it gonna do to the markets and all that good stuff. Anyway, neither here nor there. I want to talk about healthcare here in this country. I do. I've talked about it a little bit more, a little bit more frequently as of late. Different stories coming down the pike. But how many people out there? How many people out there are dealing with our healthcare system in a frequent manner? Now, you might have a great doctor, a responsive doctor, whatever it may be. But how many people actually had to utilize, I don't know, the emergency room and having to deal with wait times, or even you've got to get a regular physical, and how many months does it take before you can actually get yourself an appointment to get that physical? I find it kind of fascinating. I like to do a dermatological screening every single year since I'm a big fan of the sun. And you got to make an appointment a year in advance just to get in. Again, anecdotal myself. Last year, I'm on vacation. Again, one of the freakiest things that could ever happen. Again, it was surreal. It's almost like I don't really even remember it happening. That's the odd thing. It's because it was so quick and odd. I'm sitting on a couch, and a dog that I've known for a very long, I mean, for years and years and years and years, decided to jump up and bite my nose. And that's kind of my nose kind of crooked now. Tore my entire nose apart. Again, it was surreal to some degree. I go to the hospital. It's around 8:00 at night. I don't get in to see anybody until, what was it, 5:30, 6:00 in the morning. Plastic surgeon at around 8, 9:00 in the morning. Yes, I mean, we all see it, and you can't tell me that it's not getting worse instead of better. One of the things that I push for here on the program, again, it's you deal with supply and demand issues when it comes to physicians. And gee whiz, might we figure out a way to maybe open up more medical schools, and try to increase the supply of doctors that are out there? Might be helpful. But the real issue right now is in many fields simply because the way we handle healthcare here, because of Obamacare and the way that insurance is delivered here in this country, it's become painful. Really, well, not to mention, you take a look at the costs that are involved. I talked about Medicare and Medicaid in New York and all the people that are subsidized. I'll tell you, what do I spend? Family of 5. I'm looking at almost $30-something thousand in premium, and that's with a $15,000 deductible. It's crazy if you actually think about it. So the solution on the left is, okay, we got to socialize everything. I have socialized healthcare. That's the way to go. Yeah, well, we're on our way there. Okay, we've been on our way. We've been on this path for a long time. And as I said here on the program, that was the goal. That was what the left wanted. That's what Democrats wanted from the get-go, was to have socialized medicine. So here is a piece. If you remember, what was it? Was it Michael Moore's documentary, Sicko? I think that was the name of it, where he was applauding just how wonderful the UK's healthcare system is and how fantastic it is. And we should strive to be like that. How many people remember that absolutely ridiculous opening ceremony? So what was it, the 2012 Olympics in London, where they had kids dancing around on hospital beds? Remember that? Well, the NHS has been around. It's post-war. Well, let's go over what's going on there right now. The state funded service is falling apart. People who suffer heart attacks or strokes wait more than 1.5 hours for an ambulance. Why would you even call? Your wait time is an hour and a half for a heart attack or a stroke. I'm getting my ass in a car, taking whoever it is, getting in a car and I can fly. I get to the hospital way faster than that. Hospitals are so full, they are turning patients away. A record 7.1 million people in England, more than 1 in 10 people there. Think about that. 1 in 10 are stuck on waiting lists for non-emergency hospital treatment like hip replacements. The NHS on Monday faced the biggest strike in its history, with thousands of paramedics and nurses walking out over pay. Their woes are an extreme example of issues playing out across the developed world. Healthcare systems hit hard by COVID are under pressure as people live longer and have a wider range of treatment options. Aging populations mean costs will keep growing. The UK's experience is a warning of what happens when supply and healthcare provision can't keep up with demand. Supply, demand. Okay, simple concepts here. But again, you can only afford so much, right? You can only afford so much. So in the UK, you're going to have to pick and choose. Just like they're going to start picking and choosing here in the United States. All of this is coming soon to a theater near you. It's already on its way. Okay? It's already on its way. Like I talked about this years ago. Okay? We're in socialism town. We are in socialism town. What was it? Chip Roy from Texas trying to get Congress to sign off on anti-socialism bullshit. And I'm saying to myself, Chip, what the hell are you doing, man? I mean, honestly, for the most part, we're a socialist country. We do tons of socialist things. Not that I agree with them, but you putting out some sort of I do declare, I do decree thing, trying to get people to sign off on it, condemning it, doesn't make it true. I mean, gee whiz, you can condemn alcohol, but if you're doing it at a bar while you're having a shot of Jack, what the hell good does that do? All right. The healthcare system in the UK is facing a crisis like no other I have seen in my career. Retiring chief executive of the Nuffield Trust healthcare think tank, meaning they do nothing, and former chief executive for the NHS. The UK has mistaken cheapness for efficiency in its approach to health, and it's coming home to roost. They've lost thousands of hospital beds in the past decade in its drive for efficiency. Again, same shit happened here. Same thing happened here. Oh, yes, Obamacare. They shut, how many hospitals that were shut down? Do you remember we were all talking about this here on the program? We had these epicenters of COVID in certain areas in Queens, and the hospitals that were shut down, they didn't exist anymore. We're doing the same thing here. Lost thousands of hospital beds in the past decade in its drive for efficiency. COVID delayed treatments for patients, resulting in a vast waiting list. Hospitals in England were already at 98% capacity in December when flu season began to take hold. The mass of sick patients gummed up the system to devastating effect. 98%? Their hospitals were full? I don't even think we had that during COVID here in the United States. Delays in treating people are causing the premature deaths of 300 to 500 people a week, according to estimates from the Royal College of Emergency Medicine. 1 in 5 British people were waiting for a medical appointment or treatment by the NHS in December. The NHS said those excess death figures are not likely too high, but acknowledged delays are costing lives. Fixing the service will take time. No one should be waiting. No one should be waiting longer than they have to. Here's one of the stories here. 5 p.m. November 18th, the family of Martin Clark called 999, which is the UK equivalent of 911, after the 68-year-old father of 5 began having chest pains. After waiting half an hour, the family said they called again, pleaded for an ambulance, saying his condition was getting worse. Another 15 minutes later, they told the dispatcher they were going to drive him to the hospital themselves, even though the dispatcher encouraged them to wait for paramedics. 20 minutes after the family had left for the hospital, the dispatcher left a voicemail to say the service still didn't have an ambulance to send. He died after arriving at the hospital. 5-year-old died from what began as a throat infection. Family said they had taken the boy who was having trouble breathing to the emergency room at their local hospital, which gave him some antibiotic pills after a 6-hour wait and sent him home. The family said it pleaded with the hospital a few days later to let him be admitted and given further tests, but was told that the hospital was full. By the time the family got the little boy by ambulance to another hospital, he had severe pneumonia. He died days later from organ failure and cardiac arrest. The NHS, this wonderful healthcare system that the UK has, is Europe's biggest employer. 1.2 million staffers, has a budget of 188.6 billion funded through taxes. It has 2.9 doctors per 1,000 people, compared with the European average of 3.7. The United States, we actually have less. We have 2.6 per 1,000. Aging populations will add to the demand. The elderly consume between 3 and 5 times the amount of health care compared with younger people. On and on and on. The conservative government has sharply increased funds, but most of the money has gone toward, they said, the pandemic, including for vaccines, yada, yada, yada. Wow. You take a look at the amount of money that is spent. Again, they spend less of their gross domestic product on healthcare than we do. Obviously, our results are better, but they're getting worse. Again, how do you go about dealing with? You deal with, obviously. Now, there's a demand. The demand is going to increase. It's as plain as day. The greater the medical advances, the more people are going to live to longer and healthier lives. Has to be dealt with. Need more doctors. Need to encourage it. Need to encourage kids. And I'm going to be honest with you. The way the system is set up today, you don't see many doctors actually encouraging others to become doctors. What does that say about healthcare here in the United States and the way doctors are treated? What does it say? I mean, I've got plenty of clients, plenty of friends that are doctors, and I've got kids that are thinking about becoming it, and let's just put it this way, they caution them. And I know for a fact they tell their kids not to get into the field. That's a problem, people. It's a problem. Again, the amount of money it costs to become a doctor here in the United States, the way we run our education system here, I get it. Anybody coming up with any solutions in positions of power? I mean, we probably solve the problem in an afternoon here, but their answer is, more handouts, more subsidies, more nonsense, and it's not going to solve the underlying problem. Anyway, all right, I got to get back to this balloon gate stuff here. Balloon gate in Russia. I mentioned Saturday Night Live from this past weekend, and they had that little bit there where they were actually interviewing the Chinese balloon that Chris. But before then, they had obviously a Saturday Night Live general on there explaining that the balloon evaded our our defense, our balloon defense net, which they said was the Seattle Space Needle. Let me actually think about this just for a second. Okay, we spend almost $1 trillion. We spend almost $1 trillion a year on defense, and we can't track a freaking balloon. That the thing gets spotted. Can't they get spotted with eyeballs over Montana or wherever the hell it got spotted? Not to mention the fact, if we can't spot balloons coming over. That's a problem. I'm just saying. And again, I don't believe it. I find it very hard to believe that this stuff is undetectable, the type of equipment that we have. I mean, you can put an EMP in there. You can do ungodly sums of damage. We're worried about hypersonic missiles. We can't stop a flipping balloon. We can't see a balloon coming. I mean, again, I'm trying to dissect all this and the usual government lies and bullshit that they're throwing at us all the time. But I mean, how are these guys at NORAD even around anymore? How do they still have their jobs? Oh, every Christmas they can track Santa Claus from the North Pole and his travels, but you can't track spy balloons. And then let's be honest here. The Biden administration comes out and said, well, balloons came over the country during Trump too. And Trump's like, what? And everyone in the Trump administration, even people that really don't care for Trump, are saying, no, we didn't know anything about that. We didn't know anything about that. And actually, she's making sense here. I come down on her wacky shack ideas. Marjorie Taylor Greene called for a congressional investigation into why the U.S. intelligence community failed to inform the sitting administration of foreign spy craft transiting over the U.S. airspace. If it's true the Pentagon purposely did not tell President Trump of Chinese spy balloons during his administration, then we had a serious breach in command during the Trump administration. Yeah. And John Bolton, there's no love lost between he and Trump. Yeah, that would be a serious problem if there was knowledge and a higher authority wasn't told. Holy, you get the conspiracies out there with deep state and all that stuff. They might be onto something here. Might be onto something if this is the case. So either they really suck at their job, either they really don't know what the hell we're doing, and you and I are spending close to $1 trillion on defending the country. We spend it, and they can't track a freaking balloon. The bloody thing could have explosives on it, could have a myriad of things on it, and we can't track that at $1 trillion a year. Anyway, senior defense official told reporters February 2nd that a balloon incursion has happened a handful of other times over the past few years, to include before this administration. It is appearing to hang out for a long period of time, this time around more persistent than previous instances. Again, this was the Biden administration leaking stuff out over the weekend in regards to, well, it just us, Trump too. Again, 200 feet tall, payload weighing more than 2,000 pounds, and potentially with explosives to self-detonate if China so chose. Again, something's wrong here. This is why when they parade ex-military types general, and they on Fox and all these other places, honestly, I don't trust any of them. I don't trust. And we've been lied to so many freaking times. I'm so sick and tired of seeing them bring these guys on Fox. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't respect them at all. I mean, this patently absurd. Oh well, and again, you didn't know they were there. Now you knew that they were there. Now that this one came over, what the hell is it? You got 1,000 different stories here. I mean, you can get first and second graders to come up with better lies and stories than these people in the military and the intelligence community puts out on a regular basis. This was on a podcast. Again, this won't make the evening news here in the state. No, it's not going to make it. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett sent an interview posted to his YouTube channel that the United States and Western allies blocked his efforts of mediating between Russia and Ukraine to bring an end to the war in its early days. On March 4th of 2022, Bennett traveled to Russia to meet with President Putin. I remember this. In the interview, he detailed his mediation at the time between Putin and Zelensky, which he said he coordinated with the US, France, Germany, and the UK. He said that both sides agreed to major concessions during the mediation effort. For the Russian side, he said they dropped the denazification as a requirement for a ceasefire. Denazification as removing Zelensky. During his meeting in Moscow with Putin, Bennett said the Russian leader guaranteed that he wouldn't try to kill Zelensky. The other concession Russia made said that it wouldn't seek the disarmament of Ukraine. For the Ukrainian side, Zelensky announced that he would seek NATO membership, which Bennett said was the reason for Russia's invasion. Reports at the time reflect Bennett's comments and said Russia and Ukraine were softening their positions. Citing Israeli officials, Axios reported on March 8th that Putin's proposal is difficult for Zelensky to accept, but not as extreme as they anticipated. They said the proposal doesn't include regime change in Kiev and allows Ukraine to keep its sovereignty. This is what the West had to say. Bennett said Boris Johnson from the UK took an aggressive line. Macron and German Chancellor Scholz were more pragmatic. Bennett said President Biden adopted both positions. Ultimately, the West opposed Bennett's efforts. I'll say this in the broad sense. I think there was a legitimate decision by the West to keep striking Putin and not negotiate. When asked if the Western powers blocked the mediation efforts, Bennett said basically yes, they blocked it, and I thought they were wrong. Explaining his decision to mediate, Bennett said that it was in Israel's national interest not to pick a side in the war, citing Israel's frequent airstrikes in Syria. Bennett said Russia has S-300 air defenses in Syria and that if they press the button, Israeli pilots will fall. Negotiations between Russia and Ukraine didn't stop with Bennett's efforts. They met later on in Istanbul, and where are we at right now, kids? Where are we at right now? Now, Victor Davis Hanson on this, talking about the paradoxes that are involved with this, and it's a long piece. Talking about, all the things that have gone on. But he makes several points here at the end. He said well, there'd be broader support for Ukraine's military aid if advocates were transparent on the following 10 issues. Number one, the United States will be as firm and deterrent vis-a-vis China as it now belatedly with Russia. We will acknowledge that Ukraine is a mess because Vladimir Putin between 2009 and 2016 and in 2021 concluded that the United States either would not or could not deter his aggression. Just as we attempt to help to protect the sovereign borders of Ukraine, so too must we consider just as sacrosanct our own airspace and our southern border. All those in government and the media who demand more weapons for Ukraine after the war ends with the same zeal must demand immediate increased production to ensure their own country is as well protected as Ukraine. Just as we deplore Russia interfering in our elections, so too we must cite Ukrainian interference in 2016 as evidenced by the pro-Clinton skullduggery of Alexandra Chalupa, Valerie Chali, Sergei Lyshenko, Oksana Schuler, on and on and on, along with the Biden family's financial relations with Burisma and top Ukrainian officials. We expect and prepare for enemies to tamper with our elections, but Ukraine is a supposed friend that nonetheless likely was more involved in 2016 than were the Russians and yet was never held to account. We cannot believe any of the predictions emanating from our top intelligence and military leaders about the course of the Ukrainian war, given they were wrong about the Afghanistan collapse, wrong both about the initial resiliency of the Ukrainians and later the supposed imminent collapse of the Russians, both biased and wrong about Hunter Biden's laptop, implicated in the Russian collusion hoax, and once again misled the American people about the time of arrival, the nature and the purpose of the Chinese balloon, and the various garbled reasons why it was not immediately shot down. And again, he says, those who feel international negotiations about the status of Crimea and the Ukrainian borderlands are tantamount to surrender and therefore taboo must prepare. Again, you gotta be honest. This is what you think. You got to prepare the American people for their envisioned victory of ejecting every Russian from pre-2014 Ukraine by assessing the dangers of a nuclear exchange and the eventual cost in arms and weapons of $200 to $500 billion and a price tag of economic aid to rebuild a ruined Ukraine that will vastly exceed our military aid. Again, those who advocate Ukraine's entry into NATO must remind the American people that should Putin then mount a second offensive into Ukraine, American troops, along with those of 29 other NATO nations, would be sent to Ukraine to fight nuclear Russia and its allies. Stuff to think about, but again, got to put the flag up on the Facebook page, everybody, because that's going to make things better. Anyway, on to some of the business stuff for the day. Again, Powell speaking later in the day. Who knows? Again, I have no idea. I have no idea what he's going to say. It doesn't make the market skittish. Yeah. And again, this is, dealing with the jobs report and how he's going to react to that. I hope he's going to get some questions in regards to that. I think one of the best case scenarios is he comes out and says, we really can't do anything about the jobs market and wage inflation, and they should be happy that wage inflation is coming down. And I've said here on the program, I got a different idea in regards to the Fed and great jobs numbers. More people entering the labor force, more people looking for work going out there will what? That's better for employers. More people competing for positions. Not what we want. Won't that temper the cost of labor? Seems pretty simple to me. Boeing planning to cut about 2,000 finance and human resource jobs in 2023. Who's got a sinking suspicion that it's going to be mostly human resource jobs? That's right. First place. I take over a big company. How many people we got in human resources? Can't we get Chat GPT to do a lot of that work and figure that out and vacation time and work that all out? No, because human resources became a place where, oh, yes, it's got to make sure that we're diverse and this. Goodbye. Good riddance. SoftBank. Oh, I love making fun of this. You got people out here that they're really good. They're unbelievable at losing money. I mean, I see some of these guys out there, these big names, and the type of money they lose. I'm like, I don't think I can lose the type of money that they lose in their funds, even if I tried to. That's how bad they are at their job. I'm giving you SoftBank Vision Fund posts its fourth straight quarter of losses as tech slump hits Japanese giant. lost five. I mean, it's one bad investment. Remember the portfolio? This guy would put on these PowerPoint presentations that were, and in my opinion, were juvenile. But for whatever reason it may be, I guess it's like that whole Obi-Wan Kenobi thing. The Jedi mind trick works on the weak-minded. And man, there's a lot of weak-minded people with money that want to throw at these guys. What came to mind when I was thinking of this Vision Fund and the amount of money that they have lost. This Masayoshi Son, who's been running this thing. There's that scene in Wall Street where Gordon Gekko is he's in his office and he can't figure out the guy. Cromwell was the CEO of Teldar Paper in the movie, and he goes off on a rant there. He said, "Well, what the hell is Cromwell doing giving a lecture tour when he's losing $60 million a quarter? Guess he's giving lectures on how to lose money. Jesus, if this guy owned a funeral parlor, nobody would die. This turkey's totally brain dead. Christmas is over and business is business. Keep on buying. Dilute the son of a bitch. I want every orifice in his blanking body flowing red." Yeah, Gecko. Honestly, I see guys like this Masayoshi Son. I'm like, yeah, it's Cromwell. I mean, they're great at losing money. I mean, they're phenomenal at losing money. Anyway, you know what? We'll call it a day here, kids. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com is our website. Again, become part of the Watchdog on Wall Street family. WatchDogOnWallStreet.com. We'll see you.